Sadaqallahu al-Azim. My dear brothers and sisters, yesterday I received an email which could have been identified by the system as junk mail, but it made its way to my mail general folder, and I almost pressed delete because I'm used now to the hyper response and to the excitement that we show when in fact the item title is something that is the product of the imagination of somebody who is speculating on the events and created something and passed it irresponsibly. So the title was saying the director of the movie Fitna embraces Islam. And I almost said not again, until I found in the text names of very credible people whom I know, and I said, let me check it out. And by the way, the movie Fitna that was produced not too long ago, about a year and a half, was so blasphemous that it portrayed Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in a way that even words cannot describe. And there were cries of anger and people calling for the proper punishment of that person. How dare he do such a horrible production? He did. And a year and a half passed, and now they are saying that he embraced Islam. And I researched that, and I found that indeed he embraced Islam. He met with people I contacted in Medina, and they confirmed that he met with them, and he declared his shahada. His name, by the way, if you want to go and research it yourself, is Arnold van Doorn. Arnold van Doorn. And he's a Dutch filmmaker, and at the same time, he is a leading member of the far-right party of a person you might have heard of, Geert Wilders. You must, the name, Geert Wilders is a politician from Holland who wanted to kick Muslims out of Europe. His Freedom Party is formed on the premise that Muslims need to be kicked out of Europe. And there are branches of the Freedom Party in many countries in Europe. And there are followers. And he came and he gave lectures in the United States and in Canada. So Arnold van Doorn was a leading member of that party. So now he accepted Islam. And I said to myself, I said, Allahu Akbar, what would have happened if some misinformed, angry, self-appointed scholar of Islam who would have called for the proper punishment in his opinion, and some lunatic went and killed that person? What would have happened? We would have lost the potential of such a person who would do Islam and Muslims a great public relations service, so to speak. Maybe I should retract and say maybe not Islam if we want to say it emotionally. But we know today Islam is being attacked before Muslims. So let us not get emotional and say, well, you said he will do Islam a service and Islam doesn't need any. We know that. We know that. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We have revealed the Quran and Allah will take care of its preservation. However, we understand today that they were called in London, Ontario. In London, Ontario. We woke up on Monday to find one of the radio stations asking people the question, so is Islam in your opinion bad or good? People were asked about Islam, not Muslims. Is Islam bad or good? And guess what? Only one person from this congregation, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him a very long life, because he's always there watching and monitoring. He called. But all the others were non-Muslim, and we don't have to speculate. That was a great opportunity for them to vent their anger. Had we been so upset, how could they do such a thing? We will not achieve anything. We will not achieve anything. Islam teaches us to love our enemy the same as we love our friends. And my dear friends, my dear brothers and sisters, it's so easy for me to love you because you are my family. You are my friends. You are my brothers and my sisters. But we know that it is difficult. I'm a human being. For me to love somebody who is pointing fingers at me and calling me the poisonous imam. We received 10 emails at the center calling me names, calling the Muslims names, you name it. And some even went as far as to threaten my life. I received an email last week. And I'm a human being, and I would respond by saying, I'm going to show them what I can do. But I remembered what the man whom they are calling as the source of terrorism, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That man taught me to love my enemy equally, and he alerted me that loving my enemy is much more difficult than loving my friend. Because if I love my friend and my brother, I know he is loving me in return. But to love and have a imagine between the husband and the wife, if one of them discovers that he or she is loving the other person, and it's a one-way love, how would she feel? How would he feel? Terrible. And it's your husband, it's your wife. But we know that there are people out there who are currently not fond of us as neighbors, as colleagues at work, as students in the same classroom, as people in general. And there are calls by one of the bloggers who sent an email to the center saying that let us not be diplomatic anymore. Let us kick Muslims out of Canada. So what shall we do? Get angry? The answer is no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We've got to, be cool-headed and understand that there are some realities that we need to deal with. We've got to resort to Islam in its entirety, apply it in our lives, and try to use its recipes to deal with the issues, because what is happening now is not unique. It's not new. It is not new. Yesterday at the funeral at the center, I used an example that I would like you to please to allow me to use it again. Many Muslims and non-Muslims go through life the same as a person who is shopping at a supermarket. She or he will go between the aisles, and they've done shopping so often that it became a routine activity. The same items are reached for every time, and they are put in that carriage and off we go to the cashier and we pay and we go home. And sometimes we don't realize even that we already have a lot of this item and we will not use anymore, but we've done it so routinely that we keep picking the same items. We rarely look at new things. We rarely, except for a few, look at the ingredients on the package and say, what's in it for me, for my health? I'm buying cereal, and am I looking at how much sugar there is in this cereal box? Am I looking at how much fat, cholesterol, good, bad for me? What we need to do, Muslim or non-Muslim, is to start looking when we continue to shop. And this is how we are living. We go through life as shoppers. Let us look. Perhaps we may like something, pick it up, try it, and then change our shopping style. This is what we need to impress upon our neighbors and friends and ourselves before them, because we are guilty of being routine Muslims. We live our Islam routinely, and that is why I want to share with you a plan on how to deal with violence and potential terrorism. Number one, there are continuous calls, one thing after the other, and because now our Friday khutbahs are taped and they are on YouTube, I'm hoping that people who will listen to this khutbah will know that if they will call a radio station, television, anything, and say that Muslim religious leaders or leaders in general never condemn terrorism, they should come out clear and say we are against terrorism. Let me say it from this minbar, that I've said it many, many, many times. Not only we condemn violence and terrorism with all people of conscience, but we are saying that our Islam cannot be labeled as part of violence, even though some will say, you can say this from now until, the longest time. We don't believe you. Well, alhamdulillah, inshallah, we have to offer what we have, and then the others will see, inshallah, the same as Van Dorn was able to see and be transformed to a Muslim now who went for Umrah, and he basically now became an ambassador of Islam. Now, it is not enough for us to condemn terrorism and violence, even though we did, and we do, and we will. It is not enough. It is not enough. We need to do something. And there are two things I would like every parent and every responsible Muslim Canadian citizen to do. But they are short term, and they will not solve the problem, by the way. They will not solve the problem. Number one, I would like parents to please follow in a friendly manner what your young children are doing online, because the internet is not friendly. You never know what your children may pick up from here and there are people who are scouting for vulnerable souls. And they will put in their minds that the true Islam is what comes after death. This fatalistic attitude to show that Islam, and they say it, that Muslims don't care to live. That's why they don't care for life. That's why they don't care if they kill. That's what they say. Is this true? Does Islam teach us that life is not precious? That we should not respect life? That we should not care if we end up killing others because the real life comes after? You see, put this in context. Put it in context. Yes, we know that the real life is what we gain from what we do in this life. So this life is very important for the life that comes after. The same as what you do at school will determine your lifestyle after you graduate, if you ever do. You can choose to go partying every Saturday. But the lifestyle you have chosen while at school is your choice. So what we choose to do in this life is extremely important. Life, al-hayat al-dunya, is very important. That's why we need to monitor what our children are doing online. Please don't say, well, I don't have that. You've got to. We are going through very rough waters. And our ship is rocking. Remember the example I gave you about the making a hole in the ship. Number two, and it's the right thing to do. If you become aware of any suspicious activity at our center, at our mosque, at our places of worship, if you do not want to report it, you've got the responsibility to inform the leaders who will do the right thing. Because we need to protect ourselves from people who have fallen prey into those who do not know what Islam is all about, and they are spreading poison all over the world. It is our responsibility. Don't say, no, haram, don't, this is wrong. If you don't know how to do it, you've got to inform the leadership, because the consequences of not trying to contain such potential is very dangerous. Believe me, it's very dangerous. Because God forbid, if there will be somebody who will be described as worshipping at the Islamic Center or the London Muslim Mosque or this or that place, if it ever happens again, our community, the entire community, will be assassinated. We cannot afford that to happen. But this will not solve the problem. The problem has to be solved, and this is where our will is examined. Three things that we need to do. The first one is our responsibility. The second one is our responsibility with the other. And the third one is our responsibility. Let me start with our responsibility number one, which is a big responsibility. Teachers, parents, educators, zealous Muslims, all of them share the responsibility to change our style of education. The way we are transferring Islam to the next generation, watch my lips, is wrong. Wallahi, I am saying it with pain in my heart. The way we are teaching Islam to our children is, again, wrong. Because we are stressing salat, zakat, siyam, hajj in isolation. We are teaching our children to pray, and if they don't on time, we yell and scream and get angry. But if our child, and I'm not saying that Muslims do that, but I'm saying it as an example, so that we realize that we need to teach character building parallel to ibadat. You know, if somebody calls me and I tell my child, go and tell him I'm not here, but then after he tells that person, Dad is not here, and then I come and say, did you pray Maghrib? What good is this? What good is this? Did you pray Maghrib and then I taught him how to lie? We need to change the way we teach Islam. Character building. We need to make our children realize that Islam is akhlaq. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. I was sent, he didn't say, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't say, I was sent to teach the 5 pillars of Islam. He didn't say that. He said, بُنِيَ الْإِسْلَامُ عَلَى خَمْسٍ. Islam is built on 5 pillars. But he never said, إِنَّمَا, verily, بُعِثْتُ. I was sent for the purpose to perfect morality. So where are we today? Where are we today? Where are we today? And I shared that many, many times. What is happening? Do you want me to talk about the washrooms of airports again? I talked about that last week. Do you want me to talk about the level of corruption, fasad? That corruption, more than 170 victims yesterday died in Bangladesh. Why? Because of corruption. Because a politician did not want to fix a building. Lives there are immaterial. They're not that important. Corruption. Where is Islam? Where is Islam? And now they are attacking Islam. You know why they are attacking Islam? Because they are passing by Islamic items on the shelves and they are not even looking at those items. They are not looking at them. Because they heard somebody tried this and said it doesn't taste good. Well, try it yourself. How would any person try if he or she has heard from many people? Yes, it causes this, it causes that, it causes this, it causes that. We need to change. We need to market. Yes, you know, before people start buying Pepsi Cola over Coca-Cola or vice versa, you know how they do that? Even Pepsi Cola, who has been in business for more than 100 years, they still have a hefty budget for marketing. They still market Pepsi Cola. And we've got to market our Islam not because we want to convert people, but because people are blemishing and saying bad things about the taste. We want them to try it. We want them to try it. That's number one. Number two, very quickly, because time does not allow us to go in detail. Maybe I can continue another time. But let me say, after education, changing education, this is our now our responsibility to change them and becomes their responsibility is we've got to reach out to the politicians who make decisions and tell them when we will go under the protection of the Americans who go and destroy Afghanistan and Iraq and other places, we are creating disaster. What is happening behind the separation wall in Palestine will make bitter people when allowed to break that wall and come out of it. Guess what they will do? We want to make sure that such walls do not exist, that they are removed. We want to make sure that Afghanistan is not repeated in another country. We want to make sure that another Iraq will not unfold before human eyes. Because for generations to come, the Iraqi children who will grow up knowing that they grew up under those conditions because of them on the other side of the Atlantic, guess what they will do? Let us face it. And who will do it? We are ambassadors of those countries right here to share the goodwill and say this should not happen. We should stop it. We can vote. We can run for office. Why are we sitting back and say, we've got to participate? And number three, we've got to harness positive energy in our youth. We've got to make programs for them. Remember that 2 psychiatrists from our community, they are working very hard now with our program director to make the programs to harness the positive energy of our youth. Because if youth become engaged in something positive, they will not be easy prey for those people who are hiding behind something they call Islam, and it is not Islam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فيا فوز المستغفرين. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will accept our dua. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My dear sisters and brothers, examples from Islamic history tells us that education is so important that, you know the name El-Kassem al-Basri? I mentioned his name many times before. El-Kassem al-Basri said something very important. من عمل بما لم يعلم أهلك نفسه وأهلك غيره. Let me try to translate, it's easy. He said, he or she who acts without knowledge will destroy himself and will destroy others. So those Khawarij of today, those seceders of today, those people who claim that they are the only ones who know Islam and we don't, these people are acting without the knowledge of Islam. No. Your opinion, Brother Munir, this is not my opinion. This is not my opinion. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said it before the time of the Khawarij. He cautioned us that such people would appear, to the extent he said, if you want to recognize who they are, he said, if you will watch them pray, you will say, oh, my prayer compared to them is nothing. Look how great their prayer is. Your actions compared to their actions will look as if you don't do anything adequate because of what they are doing. But indeed, they are on the wrong track. So today, don't feel that you are not a good Muslim. And I want to say it to those Muslims who are so harsh on themselves, saying, and many times I receive phone calls, emails, I want to ask you for a favor, but before I tell you my problem, I want to tell you that I'm not so good of a Muslim. And I answer and say, please don't say that again. Don't say that again. You are not the judge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you are trying. You are trying. And for us to be judges of others, I got many angry people, who told me that, we want you to make an announcement because I saw this woman praying in this way, in such a manner. Please teach her that she is... I said, calm down, please. Please calm down. It's okay. You remember what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was... he was approached and said, the person who prays behind you all the time, he does this and this and this and this. What did he say to them? He said, bring him to me. I'm going to put... No. He didn't say that. He didn't say, he said, da'u. Leave him alone. سَتَنْهَاهُ يَوْمًا صَلَاتُهُ. One day his salat will stop him from doing what he's doing. Show some love. Show kindness, which is part and parcel of Islam. This is what Islam is all about. Let us not punish. Had we punished Arnold Van Doorn, he wouldn't have been with us today to tell the world that I am sorry that I did what I did in the documentary Fitna. I'm sorry. You know, this is much better than burning tires on the streets. Much, much, much better. Al-Hasan al-Basri, look at this, because I almost forgot to complete the example. Al-Hasan al-Basri was the tutor and the mentor of a very famous person that all of us heard the name of. He was the mentor and tutor of Umar bin Abdul Aziz. And Umar bin Abdul Aziz learned from him how to transform the Muslim community within less than 30 months. Because he died very young. He was the leader for 30 months only, and then he died. In those 30 months, he transformed everything, and believe me, the everything in today's relative measurement is much, much more difficult than what we are seeing today. But he was able to do it because he understood Islam. We need today to do that and appreciate that this is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. Let us stand up and be confident, and not to go and hide because of the tide. Because, no, stand up. Do what is right. Don't forget the 3-part strategy that I mentioned. Don't forget the short-term 2 things we need to do in monitoring things and reporting if we have to do. Those who say that Muslims are the incubators of terrorism, we say never. If because of the global environment things may appear among us, we always do the right thing because of our Islam. Not despite, but because of our Islam. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وخطايانا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم علمنا من ديننا ما جهلنا وذكرنا منه ما نسينا وكن معنا ولا تكن علينا. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.